Hi Avinash, how are you?
Hello, hi Arambika, how are you? I'm good, thank you.
I'm doing great. So happy to have you do this session for us because members in CP will be very excited. I am very excited with the topic you're going to do today, conversational hypnosis. I'm like wondering what is this all about. So a very exciting topic. And for the viewers, this is Avinash Deshpande. He is from Qatar and he's an NLP practitioner. He's a ICF certified coach, and he's going to be taking us through this beautiful topic and see how we can help from it. He's been doing a lot of leadership programs and he's been into coaching for a really long time. So his experience and along with NLP is going to bring some new learning for us today, I hope. So over to you, Avinash.
Right, thank you so much, Arambika. And to start with, as you rightly mentioned, I have a few slides, by the way, if I may just use them to
Sure,
make
yes.
to make this more interesting for you and for the viewers. Here it goes. So let me put a full screen so that okay, is it clear?
Yes, very nice
Excellent.
slide.
Yeah, thank you so much. So conversational hypnosis basically is something that we used in our everyday conversations, Arambika. And I mean, it is not, it is, I cannot emphasize more on how important it is for each individual to have this skill called conversational hypnosis. And that's the reason behind it is whether you are a coach or not, as a normal person, when we deal with different people, when we communicate with different people in our everyday life, may it be at home, at work, during your coaching practice, you always converse with people, right? And in NLP we say either you are influencing someone in a conversation or you are getting influenced.
Right,
So
right.
either one of the things happen, either you are influencing or you are getting influenced. So the idea as a coach, and to all the coaching fraternity, the idea is to give that maximum positive impact onto your clients so that you are able to take this to the next level and help your clients very positively. And conversational hypnosis has been very useful, at least in my practice, and it's a proven thing which I would like to take you through. So without further ado, let's go into a small exercise, and I would like you to be a part of this exercise as well. So this is about the representation styles or the learning preferences.
Okay.
Now, what I came to know when I started my coaching practice around say 15, 16 years back, is that when I used to start coaching and have that session with someone, there would be um, a initial period where the rapport has not yet been established, and then you have that challenge on how do I start with, what are those set of questions that I would like to ask upfront, because the rapport is not yet established, right? So it becomes a little bit difficult for new coaches to start those conversations. And that's why I chose this topic, wherein there is an exercise that you may want to take with your clients called the VAK exercise. The VAK stands for visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. And there is a sheet of questions that you may, and you could Google it. It's called the VAK representation style or learning preferences sheet. And that is a set of questions that you can get your clients to answer. What it does is it gives you the preferred style of learning for your client. Now imagine in a coaching practice, if within the first 5 minutes you are able to establish that kind of a rapport wherein you know what is the preferred communication style of your client, the rest of the session would be a very impactful, because then you would speak in the exact learning style that your client wants you to speak in, isn't it? And so when I introduce this to my coaching clients and the other coaches that I train, the question came out asking me that, but Avinash, well, to give that particular sheet, and that's an administrative exercise, right? and you talk about conversational hypnosis, then how can we eliminate that exercise but still know what is the preferred learning style? And I said, well, that is interesting, because if we remove the writing part of it and going through the exercise, we can find out how it is through just conversations. And let's have this example right away. I would like you to participate in this, and I would request you to tell me about the best vacation that you had so far, Arambika.
The best vacation was when I went to Canada, I think many years back, because that was the first time we spent a lot of time. Like it was a 3 weeks time, yeah, and then we did quite a lot there. So I think that was one of my best vacations.
Yes, and you need to be a little bit more descriptive. So when you say we did quite a lot, what was the best experience that you found out in your entire vacation in Canada?
Okay, so see, that's the time when my son was about 2 years old, and see, usually, and I used to work in a banking sector before I became a coach and started off on my own. So I had taken a sabbatical. I mean, I had taken a small break, about 3 weeks, and then I had gone on this holiday. So that's the first time I'm handling my son all by myself. Like otherwise, there were my parents, there were my in-laws, there were sufficient people to take care of him. But that's the time when my husband is there. Only the two of us, right? So it was a lot of eye opener for me in terms of understanding what does he really like to eat, to everything about him. So that is why I think it made a very big impression in myself as a holiday.
Fantastic. Excellent. Thank you so much for that. And thank you for sharing it so candidly. Thank you again. So this was a short conversation, maybe a few seconds, right?
Yes.
And do you know that I could guess your preferred learning style. And your preferred learning style is kinesthetic. And you would be surprised to know why that, because you are attached to more of feelings and these elements. And I'll give you a reason behind that. So it's easy for me to just say, well, you are kinesthetic, but then people would ask, Avinash, but how do you prove that, right?
Yeah.
And the idea is that when people speak about their special experiences, right? And vacation is one of these special experiences. There are two aspects that go into it. One is your body language. The other one is your eye movements, okay, where they go. And these are some elements that will come over a period of time when you practice. However, the language that you use, and the current subject is about language.
Right.
The language that you use gives you a lot of information, gives you as a coach a lot of information about your client. And for example, in your few seconds of description, you used words like handling your kid, okay? You used words like understanding. You use words like impression. And these are a few keywords that you would know that, well, these are used specifically by people who are kinesthetic.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay. So, and this comes out very naturally for you. And now I need not explain this to my client, because now I know that you are kinesthetic. The rest of the communication, the rest of the coaching session would be in elements of I being using the kinesthetic words. And in the next slide, I will take you through what are the types of people, what are their characteristics, so that you and your people who are watching this would understand, well, these are the characteristics and these are the usage of words that people use, so that they know the next time they are speaking to someone, he is a visual, he is an auditory or a kinesthetic person. Wouldn't that be nice to have that?
Definitely. I think, see, it's one of the ICF competencies also to use the language and the style of the client, right? So it's a very, very useful thing, Avinash. Great.
Exactly. So the first ones that we are talking about are the visuals, Arambika. And the visuals are people who memorize by seeing those pictures, right? They are less distracted by noise. They are more into visualization. They are more into description of things visually. Right? And what are the words that they use in their conversation? So see, look, appear, show. And how do they use it? So it need not be the use of the words in the literal sense. Do you see what I'm saying? Right. And this is an example that when I use something like, do you see what I am saying? Right. It means that, well, one of my elements that I am in right now, that I am more of a visual.
Seeing person.
right? Yes, seeing person. And then you can view it differently, okay, if you are not that. So again, it shows that when I said these words, well, I am somebody who is a visual person. So let's focus ourselves on the next one. Again, so the idea is to focus on the concentrate on the words that we are using, and then understand automatically that, well, now we are going from a visual aspect to the auditory aspect.
Sure.
The auditory people are typically easily distracted by noise. They have very, very keen ears, specifically musicians. By the way, the visuals are those who are not necessarily, but those who are photographers, those who are into animation, visual things, right? The audio people are musicians and those kind of people who are into something which has to do with auditory. They can repeat things back to you easily, and they learn by listening. So if I were to have a client who is an auditory person, I would rather speak to him more and remove the slides completely, and then get his expressions to understand what he wants to speak about. If it was a visual person, I would focus on the slide and take away less of my conversation and focus on, can you see this? Can you see where I'm going, right? So this is the interesting part. The auditory people use words like, do you hear? Does it sound interesting to you? Right? So I'm all ears for you, Arambika. So these are some of the. Does that ring a bell?
Yes.
Yes, it does, of course. So that's how people use these auditory connotations. The third one are the kinesthetics, and you would really identify very closely with this. They often talk slowly and breathy. They respond to physical rewards and touching, and they memorize by doing or taking them through the actual action rather than showing them presentations or just talking to them. You would want them to do that. So now tell me, if you were to be my client and this is a first coaching session, and I have the learning styles on my iPad, which you can just check, and I have the option to ask you of this, okay, what is the option that I would choose?
Like for the client?
Yes, for the client. So you are my client. If
Right.
I'm the coach, what I would rather do is take the iPad, give it in your hands, and say, Arambika, why don't you just check this for me and know your preferences? That's because you, being a kinesthetic, you would want to do it by your hand and then feel it yourself, right?
Absolutely.
Some of the words that you kinesthetics use is feel, touch. Do you get a hold of this, right? Yes. So these are some of the elements. I'm not spending a lot of time on this because there are some further interesting topics that we can cover. But hopefully the idea is good. There was a question that I usually used to get. So what if people have mixed words in their conversation? That
was my question too. I was going to ask you that. Yeah, go on. Yeah.
Absolutely. So if they are not into a particular, completely do not fall into one particular bucket, how do they fit in? And that's where we have the auditory digital, or it's also called labeling. The auditory digital people, they are typically those accounts guys, those finance guys. If you have been in a corporate, there are those financial guys who are within themselves, right? The IT guys who are within, they talk to themselves sometimes. They have to go through exact steps, procedures, sequences. They want to make sure that every little real or rupee counts when they do the accounting, right? These are very detailed oriented people, and they have a tendency to use a mix of words. However, the category that they fall into is using process based words, thinking words, motivational thing. They have this element of sense. Again, these are a mixture, but they have all of these. So this is the fourth type, which you can, so if you find that, well, I'm not able to put them in any bucket, right? Ideally, they would fall under an AD category, which is auditory digital.
Okay.
Well, so this was about the learning styles. In terms of usage of language, which is the other element of conversational hypnosis, What we mean by conversational hypnosis is not having to put your person in a state of hypnosis where he goes into a trance and then you are able to coach him. Conversational hypnosis is something that you do on a daily basis when you are speaking to someone and they get so involved in you that it in itself it's a trance. And when they go into that trance, it is important that the words that you use are very, very effective, because that will go down to their subconscious level and make an impact. So when you use these words, the usage of language, and specifically from a negative to a positive, is something that you carry out as a coach. So when the client tells you something, you know what, Arambika, every time I do this, everything goes wrong. I am completely not in the mood, and I don't know what happens. And they are always coming into that state, right? And you as a coach has that responsibility to first get them out of that state and put them into a positive state. So you as a coach then would want to ask them about, okay, can you tell me what's going on well? For example, you
Right.
change the mode from their negativity to the positivity. And for that, there is a lot of practice that has to happen in identifying the language that the client is using and then changing into a positive one. For which, as a coach, it's important that you do not get into the content of what the person is saying, but talk about what he is, what his state is. Fair enough. So there are some words that I personally would recommend to use less of. And then as we go further in the slides, there is a reasoning behind it. So few words that I personally use less of is to avoid using the word but. Now, grammatically, when you use this word but, it is a proven research which says that it negates anything before what has been said, before the use of that word but. So what do you use instead? We use and instead. And the way I explain this to my coaches is to tell them that even in grammar, when you use a word like but, if you use it in a sentence, see what it does. So if I'm trying to tell you this, but I am not able to tell you what it has does it, what the word has does, what this word has done is to cut the sentence into two parts, right? And while I'm trying to tell you, and further, I may add to it that I will explain it to you differently. What this has done is said, well, it has connected another word, another sentence to it. So even if it is grammatically or metaphorically, what but does, it to disconnect, while and is to connect. So you would want to use a lot of connecting statements, positive connecting statements with your client in your coaching. The other word is should. Should ideally is an instruction. So you should have done this also tells you, well, I did not do it. There is a guilt. There is a little bit of guilt that the client or the listener feels, right? And that's why the avoidance of should is something that is recommended. A very interesting word is don't. A don't leads the brain to associate the negative aspect first. So if you, and I'll go through the example, which is very interesting in the further slide. When I talk to you and ask you not to think about something, so if I tell you, don't think of a pink flamingo now, don't think about a pink flamingo, or don't think about a green elephant, right? What is the first thing that happens in your mind, Arambika?
Obviously think about it, right?
Absolutely, right? And this is what happens, and specifically when not only with our clients, when as a parent, when we are with our kids, every time they do something, we are, hey, don't do that, don't go there, and we shout at them sitting, don't do that because you may fall over. And then you see the child falling over, and then you confirm with him, see, I told you that you will fall over, and you have done that, right? Because you have given that kind of a command for the kid to do that, don't fall. Okay, for example, you are asking him to do that. So for somebody to not do something, he has to first go through doing it in his brain and then not do it. So it's very important that the use of words like don't in our everyday coaching needs to be taken care of. The other word that we have is try. When we use try, it carries the expectation that you may fail to do something. And I have, if you go further, there is an interesting thing that we missed here is our working memory, and you may know this, is limited to hold only 5 to 9 pieces of information, right? 7 plus or minus 2. And that's exactly why, especially for the viewers, that in India, during the olden times, our telephone numbers were 7 to 8 letters, numbers, right? So that exactly, and we used to remember them before the invention of the mobile phone. All of us would be knowing that directory. Our grandfathers would know those numbers by heart, right? And this was the reason why they could easily do it. The next element is to see that, for example, when you have to, if you ask the client to do something and they found that they did something different, this is a very, very common example. You are asking your client, can you do X? And the result that you get is completely different of what you have asked them to do. And you are surprised, man. Well, for me, I have been very, very clear in my communication. You know, I'm the coach. I have that feeling, how can I be wrong? And then you come to know, well, your client has not been able to follow those instructions. So change the language in which you communicate. And I'll give you an example here. So when you have learned this, you will be able to enhance your own practice further, right? This is a statement. In this statement, what I am doing is I am suggesting success for the client. The same statement, if I go ahead and put it, if you are able to learn this, you know what, then you might be able to enhance your own practice. So no matter how passionately I say this, the usage of words completely changes the way I am putting it towards my client. So no matter if you are able to learn this, that means, well, I doubt if you are able to learn this. It's the same thing, but you know, a little difference in the usage of words completely makes a difference in terms of how people perceive that kind of a language. And that's why it is important that you focus on those words that are being used specifically during your coaching. There are some of the examples that we have given here. Don't shout, don't do that, don't miss your targets. This is in our corporate environment. Don't worry. Very common, isn't it? Please don't worry. It will all be fine. And you know, don't worry itself is a position where you put that client into worry. Oh, let me think what worry is, and he goes further down into that spiral. Right?
I mean, I think, like what you said, these don't, and these have become so much in our vocabulary that it takes a conscious effort to shift. But I see why it needs to be shifted. Thank you.
Absolutely. And the reason behind that is that when we have grown with our parents, right, this has been a common thing. And because they have not been into NLP or they have not gone through this, it has been a common, especially in our part of the world, where we are focused on caring, we are trying to, protect our kids. The don'ts come out very, very easily, and we get used to those elements.
True, true.
However, moving on from there, the next technique that we use in conversational hypnosis are the double binds. Again, Milton Erickson, who was the father of conversational hypnosis, he used to do this very, very often in terms of using double binds. Now, one type of hidden meaning, the double bind, is to offer choices for your clients or for the person whom you are speaking with, wherein both the choices lead to the same outcome. Now, imagine, this is so powerful when you are using it in coaching. No matter what that statement is, those two options have to be leading to the same outcome. And I will give you example. So if your client is Sarah or Arambika, would you like to start by drawing the map or do the questions first? So what I do is usually when I start the coaching session, I would like to draw a mind map of the person who is my client, or I give them this VAK style questionnaire once I know that they are a kinesthetic person. So then that's an option that I would have. Both of them would lead to the same outcome of giving me some more information about them. So would you start to start by drawing a map, or would you like to draw the questions first? Right? The person who's listening to you has no option of denying that, because he has only two options, this or that. A very interesting thing that we could use in our everyday life with our kids is to ask them, so do you want to do your homework before you play or after you play? Isn't it? So yeah, the kids have no choice but to say, well, I'll do it after I play. That's mostly what happens, right? But then he's committing himself to do the homework after he plays. So that's how it works. You can work and discuss this in a pair or as a whole table. These are some of the things that we use in our coaching practices, whether you are training or coaching. Only do as much work as you want in order to complete it today. Right? And a very nice skill that you can use is to focus on the last part, right? So for example, in this sentence, only do as much work as you want to in order to complete it today. A very, very minute pause, just because before the command is completed today that you would want to give. A minor pause, and it works fantastically well. And you can try this out time and again. 99% of the times it has worked for me, and definitely it will work for you as well.
So this sounds very inclusive, right? Like you're giving them an option, whereas you're actually not giving them an option at all.
Exactly. So whatever kind of, if they are reluctant to do that, that barrier is completely removed, because both the options are doing it for them. There is nothing that they would not want to do, isn't it?
True.
So, and after reading this example, you might find yourself thinking about what you already know, or you may find yourself making use of this in your coaching practice, wouldn't you? Absolutely. So exactly. So that's what you come into a frame of mind which says, absolutely, yes, Avinash, yes, this is something that I would want to do. So think of these double minds and how can we use it in your everyday conversations. There is again a practice. You put down the statements, make sure these are very, very customized to these are some of the statements that are customized to my way of speaking. And in this session, I'm speaking a little bit fast so that I can cover a lot of content. Sure. But if you say the same sentences slowly, and during the coaching session, take that kind of an effort with the client, he is absolutely going to enjoy that.
Sure. Yes.
Yeah. So there was this, again, this is from my experience. People come and they say, well, Avinash, you always talk about talking positively, right? Do you mean that I would take negativity completely out of my vocabulary? How does it work? Is it really practical? And I said, no. What you need to do is to even make negatives work positively for you.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting fact, because then they question me, what do you mean this is confusing? I said, yes, confusion is a part of conversational hypnosis, and they enjoy that. So if you can use this word don't in a way where it could be positively influencing, why not? So for example, I don't know whether you will find this interesting or not, right? And again, the command that I am putting in here is, I don't know whether you will find this interesting, right? What happens is the command is find this interesting, and the don't part, as we said earlier, is not registered by the mind. So that goes away, and what remains is find this interesting. And I'm not sure whether you will realize how important this is. And these are everyday conversations. You need not be a PhD in the linguistics to use them in an everyday conversation, because these are the words that come out very naturally from you and me. So what it does is, these kind of words they arouse a curiosity. They tempt to challenge that person in terms of putting something which is very intriguing. And storytelling is another part of conversational hypnosis. There is probably another webinar that we could do on storytelling itself, but that's a big topic in itself. The next technique is the yes tags. And if you noticed in the past conversation of whatever minutes have gone by right now, I have used many times unknowingly, because this has become a part of my vocabulary, to use these yes tags. Have you noticed this? Haven't you?
Yes.
Yes, exactly. So that's what happens. The yes tags are the part of this influential language wherein disagreeing or can change into an agreement. So when I say, can't you, your obvious reaction would be, yes, I can, right? So imagine such a powerful technique, disagreement turning into an agreement. These are your yes tags. And I, even in my normal, it has become a part of my vocabulary. Even in my normal conversations, I would always want to end it with a yes tag. And if you practice it enough, it becomes a very, very influential language for you to use it during your coaching session. So, and people would find it interesting, wouldn't they?
I know you're doing this with me. Yes, but
Yes, they will. Exactly. So the reason why I'm doing this is so that people who are listening to us, they would have this idea that while it may sound quite normal,
right.
you need to focus. And as you rightly did, and thank you for that, because you focused on what I am doing when I am conversing with you, and then you are able to identify those nuances. If you would not have done that, people who are listening might say, well, this is a normal conversation going on. So the idea is to keep the eyes, the ears open to say, well, that is the connotation, and not to get involved in the content of the client, but about the state that he is in.
Right.
I'm aware of the time, and Arambika, please let me know if you need to stop me somewhere, okay? So then we have the yes sets, and this is a very, very, very powerful tool. The reason I used very, very, very powerful tool, because that's exactly what the tool is about. The tool is about using your statements which are realistic. These are yes sets of yes, where you put your client in making him say yes 3 times in a row, consciously or subconsciously. And believe me, Arambika, and this is from my experience, I have used this a few years back. Again, I'm not sure if this is going to go viral, because it would, if it goes to my HR director, he would know that I once used this with him to get an appraisal, to get an increment in terms of my salaries. I used this at the airport to take the preferred seats for me and my family. And this is very, very effective in everyday life. If you are able to master this, you will find that wherever you go, you are able to influence people in a way where they are obliged to do something for you. And it's very, very easy. The way you do it is to tell you. So while you are watching me, Arambika, sitting in your chair during this webinar, I'm sure there is a lot of learning that is taking place for you and for the audiences who are watching. Yeah. What we have done here is we have used 3 statements which would put you in a yes frame. So you are watching me, aren't you? Yes.
Yes.
You are sitting in a chair. Yes. Okay. And we are doing this webinar, for example. Yes. And then the suggestion comes next. The suggestion is that while we are doing this, you and the audience who is watching us is going to learn a lot. And that's a subconscious suggestion. Well, yes, there is a lot of learning that is happening. So imagine if you use this with your client, at the end of the session, the takeaway is, oh, there's a lot of learning that has happened. Because you would want to know that your content that you're delivering is absorbed by the mind of your client so that he could take action on that. And you know, the ball out of the park, the sixer on the last ball, is to add a yes tag to it. Okay. So as you said that, well, while you're sitting on that chair and watching me, and while we are doing this webinar, there is a lot of learning happening, Arambika, isn't it?
Yes.
Absolutely. And that's a sixer, because that will make sure that you have not only packed it nicely but sealed it with a yes tag.
So it's more like, you state the facts, which they will have no other way but to say yes, and then add into what you have to say.
Absolutely. And those have to be very, very straightforward facts, like the sun rising today, or it's being afternoon, the time is 14:45 for here, for example, right? And those are the elements. If I were to tell you, so Arambika, I can see you are sitting in the most comfortable chair. Okay, that is not incorrect way of using yes tags, for a simple reason. Adding adjectives to your conversation may or may not be true.
Correct. I'll instantly say maybe not.
Exactly, maybe not. So you would be very, very careful in eliminating any of the adjectives in your statements, so that the statements are very clean in terms of what you are asking of them.
Okay, remove adjectives. Yeah.
Okay, good enough. So I'm again very of the time, I'm not sure if I've covered that, but in terms of conversational hypnosis, Arambika, the idea is to make sure that when you are sitting with a client, okay, right from the word go, there is a lot of influence that you start. I mean, it's like Sachin Tendulkar coming to bat, and right from the first ball, you start hitting fours. And as a coach, what a wonderful way, what a wonderful technique to start with, when you know that every next ball you're going to hit a six.
True. True.
Right. So and there are many more techniques in NLP that we use as a part of conversational hypnosis. Because this is a short time period, I have just finished it very quickly. But as we move on, there is a lot of research that can be done online, and you would want to find out what other aspects of conversational hypnosis can be used with your clients.
Right.
These, of course, I have my contact details. They can contact you, and we can always have this conversations going on in the future,
Yes,
for them,
sure.
for you, and for the coaches to benefit from this.
I mean, this was a really lovely session, Avinash, because we tend to use, right, words that we don't understand why we are using it. Probably because we have gotten into a pattern of using it. We've just, and it's very difficult to break that. But when we are aware of this concept, that it has an impact, makes a huge difference. And this, yes, this button and, right?
Yes.
There was an instance where I facilitate a lot of sessions in the corporates, and there was this one session where I used that as an activity, and it says yes but and yes and that's how we used it. The difference, with the way the solutions came out with yes and was phenomenal. We did the same thing with yes but, and then we did the same thing with yes
Yes, yeah.
and it was a phenomenal difference. So I could really connect when you said how it makes an impact. And they also say the subconscious does not understand can't, don't,
The negatives, yes.
yeah. So is that also the reason why we suggest don't use the word don't too much?
Correct. Yes, or why to use the positive words a lot more than trying to use this. And specifically, I have seen that in a coaching practice, where you are, when the client comes to you expecting for that change, simple conversations can have a wonderful impact without even the client knowing.
Right.
And what more do you want for your clients to be successful than to be able to get this without unknowingly, isn't it?
Absolutely. So I'm just going to ask you one devil's advocate kind of question.
Please.
Yeah? So while we use the power of words and all of it, are we, this might be even in one of the audience who are listening to it might also have this. Are we trying to replace something without the client's effort, or this is just something that is enabling the client better?
And it's a fantastic question. It's a mix of two, Arambika. It's a mix of two. The idea is that you as a coach have a responsibility to enable your client to become successful. So on your part, you are enabling him to go into that positive state of mind, by using the words that will make him go there.
Right. Okay.
Now, once the client is used to your conversations, he may positively choose to, consciously choose to go in that frame of mind. And that is what the second outcome is. The next time when a client comes to Arambika as a coach, he would want, no, I know this coach works well with me because I can connect with him very easily. He enables me to go into a positive state of mind.
Yeah, true.
Isn't it? So that connection becomes a lot more de- uh, deep with the client and the coach when they do this exercise, because you have no other means in terms of tools other than your words. So you don't have to carry anything with you. All you have to say is statements which can make a very, very powerful impression on your client.
So true. So I think, it works extremely well, even during the chemistry session, just to get the chemistry session right, to build the trust. I think this becomes a key element to start off with, and great insights from the session, Avinash. And I don't want to keep asking a lot of questions, because I also want to leave some questions for the audience to ask you.
Yes,
And thank you so much for doing this session for us. I know in
my
between
pleasure.
your busy schedule, I had to catch hold of you in the middle, but then you volunteered to do it. I'm so happy that we could do this together today.
It's my pleasure, and what a time you chose in terms of this week to be done. And thank you so much. And feel free to connect with me and with your audiences. My contact details are here. I am available anytime you require any support. Please feel free to do so. Thank you so much, Arambika.
Thank you, Avinash. So, all of you who are watching this session, we had a great, insightful session again. So, we've been doing for the ICW a lot of sessions now. And whatever questions you may have, please put it in this comment, and Avinash will be happy to support you with his questions. So, do keep his contact details ready. He's available with us in this group too. So, anytime he's there to support us. See you soon with the next learning session. Thank you so much, Avinash, once again.
Thank you.
Have a
You have a
great
great day ahead. Bye
You
bye.
too. You too. Bye bye.